Hello everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Daily Anime Talk, where I go over some of the most recent anime I've been watching and what I think about it. For this episode, I actually went to the cinema and saw a new anime movie called The Deer King, which I had a really good time watching. So I'll quickly give it a quick overview of the story. So the main character Van, is the main character who's a slave at the beginning and is freed after a wolf attack on his mine that he's being worked in. And he meets this young girl called Yuna, and the whole story is basically about them traveling and trying to make a life for themselves. But then the overarching story is about this empire that's taken over, but also come to friendly terms with this smaller nation. But there's factions within this smaller nation trying to kill off this empire. So the overarching story kind of intertwines with their story, and then they get involved and they get bitten by the wolves while they're escaping, and it gives them abilities, and that's the overarching story where they get involved with multiple people from both sides, and they end up going on a fantastical tale separate and together. It's really good overall. But some of the things I enjoyed about were, because it's a movie and not just a TV series weekly, the animations are great, the visuals are so much better because it's got the budget behind it, so you can always tell when you go and watch an animated movie that the budget is there, and they don't cut back on anything. It's all like crisp animation, especially the colours they use in the show. At one point, the girl Yuna gets possessed by another character, and the red flow of energy that comes out of her is really cool, and it's like gives it a grand scale because she starts to control the wolves as well. Then another really good thing is there's the mixture of science that one of the doctors called Hosal uses. He's like trying to figure out how to cure this illness that's spreading throughout the empire, and he's trying to use blood samples from Van, who seems to be immune to it, to try and mix with the infected people to try and cure them. But then there's also this supernatural vibe as well that's with the wolves and the illness, and people think it's a curse, and it seems to spread almost supernaturally, like a magic or something. But yeah, that's really cool, the mixture of those two kind of genres, like science and supernatural. And then next, the relationship between Van and Yuna is really nice, because at the start of the movie, you find out that Van lost both his wife and his son, and then ended up becoming imprisoned in this slave mine. And at the point where the wolves attack and the mine is basically killed of everyone, it's only Van and Yuna. And Yuna almost brings Van back from the brink of death, and he decides to look after her as her new father. And it's really sweet seeing how they bond over the course of the film, and Van sees her as his own daughter, and it's really lovely to see. And then at another point in the film, they come across this village, right, a really remote village just in the middle of nowhere, that's trying to breed these almost mystical deer that have become almost extinct, and they're trying to bring them back from the brink. But it's really lovely seeing them spend time with the villagers. Like, their relationship grows. It becomes really nice to see how they become to accept each other, and they're not just strangers anymore. They are almost daughter and father. And then their relationship with the villagers as well. They become really close, start working together, and they all become friendly. Even Van starts to smile again, because at the start of the film, he was so sad. Like, his face was the epitome of just awful life, but he begins to smile again, and even the villagers start to realise that he fits in there with them, and it's really nice. And that also continues on, like, his growth as a character. Like, at the beginning of the film, he's on death's door, and he basically wants to give up, and Yuna brings him back from that. And at the end of the film, his eventual sacrifice to save Yuna shows how far he has grown, and it's really nice to see he didn't purposely go out to give up his life. He did it for a reason, to protect someone he now loves and sees as his daughter, and it's really nice to see that. And then as it goes further on, it's not just Van and Yuna that are really cool characters. A lot of the side characters are really cool as well. Like the villagers, they don't have huge parts, but it's nice to get to know them and their involvement with the overall story. The Doctor Hosal, he's really cool because he's like a very different character to everyone else, because everyone else sees it as a curse and it's vengeance for the Empire attacking this smaller nation. But Hosal, the Doctor, is very much based in science and trying to find a logical reason for all these things happening. And at the end of the day, he uses his science and ends up curing everyone that has been afflicted with the illness. So it's nice to see him grow as well. He starts off as a very like, oh, this is all doom and gloom, but he grows and learns more as the story progresses. And that also applies to Sai, who's the tracker, who's been trying to find Van and Yuna throughout the whole film, and she gets to know Van and assumes he is just another horrible person that's trying to help out the Empire, because she's from this smaller clan that were taken over by the Empire, but sees how he's not at fault for anything. He's trying to just protect Yuna, and she ends up learning a lot and letting him go at one point just so she doesn't have to kill him, because that's the order she was given. And she ends up becoming almost Yuna's guardian at the end of the film. It's really sweet to see how she grew and started to like the characters as well. And then the last really good point I wanted to add was the world building's really fun, because you start off finding out, oh, the two nations, they were at war, and then because the small nation was so gung ho and were not willing to give up, they had to come to almost peace terms, and the Empire eventually took them under their wing, but not by force. The smaller nation had to agree to it, and you get to see flashbacks and like clips of the war that happened, and it's really cool to see how Van was such a big integral part of that. He was called a lone deer or a lone hunter, and he was like the front man for all of them, and like hardly anyone could stop the hunters, and they were like one of the tipping points in the war, it seems. And then the only one drawback I thought about it was the bittersweet ending, where I liked how it showed Van had grown as a character and loves Yuna as his own daughter. I thought over the film, like, oh, they're going to be together forever, but then at the end it's bittersweet because they're not. In the end, it's just like Yuna goes back to the village at the end, but Van has to go off and almost like contain the illness and keep it separate from the rest of civilization. So it's a bittersweet ending, and I wasn't 100% with it, but I understand why the story ended up going in that direction, which is cool and all, but I wasn't 100% with it. That was, to be honest, that was the only drawback, and it's kind of a nitpicky one at that, but yeah. But overall, I love the film. It was such a good 2 hours sit down just to watch the story progress, and the art style just intensifies that great story. And at the end of the day, I enjoyed the film overall, and I think it was only in cinemas here in the UK for 2 days, which is a bummer, because a lot more people should get the chance to see this. But if you do get the chance to see it, whether that be on Blu-ray or in the cinemas again or streaming, I definitely recommend this film and giving it a go, because it's such a sweet film, and you'll love the journey that Van and Yuna go on throughout this 2-hour adventure. But yeah, that's all I've got on this one, so until next time, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to keep up to date with all other updates and videos I'll be putting out. But until then, have a good day.